So, should life mean life for murderers and other serious offenders? It's an issue the government is having to grapple with after a ruling by the European Court of Human Rights, and it's just the latest example of the court in Strasbourg putting itself at odds with the British government. There are currently 52 criminals in England and Wales serving whole-life prison terms, which allow no possibility for parole. Different rules apply in Scotland. Judges in Strasbourg found in favour of 3 of those prisoners, all notorious killers, when it said their sentences breached human rights rules because they were not allowed a right to review. David Cameron said he profoundly disagreed with the decision. But it looks like the government could try to comply with the ruling by replacing whole-life tariffs with US-style 100-year prison sentences. That would potentially allow offenders to have their sentences reviewed and reduced. The government is already considering how to respond to another ruling from the ECHR after it said the UK's ban on prisoners voting is unlawful. For many, all this adds up to proof that the court in Strasbourg is overreaching itself. The former Lord Chief Justice, Lord Judge, said last month it threatened the sovereignty of Parliament, warning this is a court which is not answerable to anybody. The period for the government to decide what to do about whole-life tariffs runs out this week, and the Ministry of Justice says it will respond shortly. Well, we still have the Conservative MP Mark Reckless and, of course, Charles Kennedy as our guest of the day. Charles Kennedy, first of all, Ian Brady, Rosemary West, Jeremy Bamber, all notorious killers. Are they being denied their human rights by being kept in prison for the whole of their lives?
No, it's not a matter of releasing them. It's a matter of them having a review after 25 years.
But that means they could be released without spending the whole of their life in prison.
Well, it's not for politicians to take that judgment, but there should be a right to a review. And I think this is misunderstood. People think this is about opening cell doors and letting out notorious people that need to be locked up for their own safety as well as everybody else's, probably for the rest of their natural life. But you should have a review process. And interestingly, the European Court, again much misunderstood, is talking about an automatic right for review after 25 years. The norm in English law, you did make the point, doesn't apply in Scotland, in English law is in fact 16 years. So yes. In fact what the court is talking about is in fact more punitive than the working practice day to day in England.
No, I take that point, but for many people, life should mean life, and
yes.
For those most notorious killers
yes,
of all,
life should
they
mean
should
life.
stay in. They should die in prison.
Life should mean life, but that doesn't mean that an independent judge or panel should be able to review after a quarter of a century the individual circumstances involved. Give you an example, hypothetical example. Suppose somebody's terminally ill and they've served 30 years in prison. And suppose there's a prison riot, and suppose they save a warder's life, and they've only got a few months left of their own life. A judge might want to take that into account and say they can have the last few months of their life in liberty of a sort, rather than in an institution. Now, is that inhumane? I don't think so.
Right. Well, what do you say to that? That the fact that there just should be some sort of legal right to a review?
Sounds like when the Scottish government sent Al Magari back to Libya, notwithstanding what we believe he did at Lockerbie. I mean, I think this is an issue essentially of who decides, and Parliament has passed this law, and it says for the worst murders there should be a whole life tariff. It's an independent judge who makes that decision, and we brought in whole life tariffs when we abolished capital punishment in this country, and that I think was part of the understanding that we had at that time. And we in Parliament should decide. And ultimately our top judge here, Lord Judge, when he was Lord Chief Justice, said this was quite compliant with the European Convention on Human Rights, and our courts have interpreted it that way. And ultimately they decide. They only have to have regard to Strasbourg. They don't have to follow it. So there's no need for us to make any change on this as Parliament, and we should respect our own top judges, not Strasbourg.
Right. Well, before we go on to about what happens if we don't comply with the European Court, personally, though, of course, you would like to see them stay. Yes. Regardless of who decides, you would like to see whole life tariffs. Why shouldn't somebody, as was stated by Charles Kennedy, no matter how hard they work towards rehabilitation, that their punishment doesn't change?
Well, take the case of David Oakes, who the Lord Chief Justice looked at his case. It was a cold-blooded murder of his ex-partner and his daughter. it was planned. The judge said that he took pleasure in the killing, and there was not a shred of mitigation. In a case where it's really the worst possible murder that we can conceive, it is important that society have the ability to say you must go to prison for the rest of your life. And belief in our criminal justice system will just be undermined if we allow the European Court to bite away at that key principle.
Right. What do you...
The European Court, here we go again, biting away. I'm just looking at the facts here. 2011, I think the most recent figures available. In England, 160 people were released for murder. Of those, 26 had served less than 10 years. That's almost 1 in 6. Now, that's nothing to do with Strasbourg, nothing to do with the European Court. That's what's happening in domestic law. Why isn't there the same ferment and outrage about that if what Strasbourg is saying is considered so invidious?
Because we've been invited on to discuss whole life sentences and whether Parliament or the European Court should decide, and I think Parliament should decide.
Right.
And you're quite happy with those decisions that's leading, Parliament has made, that is leading to those kind of statistics?
I would like to see tougher sentencing more generally, but on this key issue that life must mean life in these circumstances, I think it must, and I don't think the European Court should be allowed to bite away.
Court, personally?
Yes, I believe we should be an
given those facts, what's happening in our country, nothing to do with Strasbourg, why don't we abolish the court system as we've got it in England?
There's two issues. One, no, it's not. There's the European Convention, and there's the question of who decides, our top judges or Strasbourg. And at the moment, we've got a complete mess of the system, where sort of both are sort of deciding, and it's not clear. I think we should be absolutely
top judges from this country to Strasbourg.
And other
other
countries send people as political favours who haven't even been judges, or in some cases even lawyers. And our judges are much better than those European judges. They have a much better record.
Right.
And I think we should follow our Supreme Court, or our Lord Chief Justice in this case, and allow them to make decisions, because I think they're better decisions, and as a country governed by our Parliament and where appropriate by our top judges, I think that's a better system than one in which this European Court decides.
Well, there is a contradiction, though, isn't there, that if you did pull out of the European Court, you would still have those cases where people who you think should stay for their whole of their life in prison would be released.
No, I don't think that's the case. At the current system, we have the whole life sentences, and our Lord Chief Justices uphold what the law Parliament has passed. That's the situation. The European Court disagrees, but we only have to have regard. Our judges only have to have regard, and our Parliament doesn't even have to have regard. And I don't think Parliament should vote for any change at all. We should stick with what we've got.
What about the compromise put forward by David Cameron? Will that work?
Well, I don't think we should be dancing around in order to do what the European Court says. Parliament has decided what the law is, and that's what we should obey. Ministers may be trying to obey international law, but the only reason they do that is because the Prime Minister issued a ministerial code saying they should. But actually, under our system, you should only have to obey the law as it's determined by Parliament. Okay. And that is what we should do.
How dangerous would it be if Britain was to pull out of the European Court and the European Convention?
Well, it would be an absolute disaster. I mean, we're a founding member of it for a start, post the Second World War. I like the phrase, our judges are better than everybody else's. I'm a member of the all-party, Westminster-appointed, Prime Minister-appointed Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, and the one important vote I have as a member of that is I get to vote for who these judges are from all other 46 countries.
All the more reason for not following this decision, if you don't mind, Charles.
And I pay great attention, as my colleagues of all parties in the delegation do.
So you're to blame for this?
No, we make very good decisions. Right. But I was there when David Cameron addressed the Parliamentary Assembly, very good address last year. If he'd used phrases like, our judges are better than everybody else's in this room... I did not say that, Charles. I said they were better than judges who were appointed who hadn't even been judges in their own country, and sometimes hadn't even had legal experience in their own country. Why do you appoint these people?
I'm going to leave it there, Mark Reckless. Thank you.